Maybe I can do that.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Switch Hustle with Mags Boland Murphy, Boffin Consultancy. We are going to chew the fat, everything business, everything life. They all work together. Today, I would like to welcome Matt McAllister from mortgagepropeller.com, which is a UK-based innovative solution setup, I would call it, specifically built to provide a solution to a very big problem at the moment. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Max. Good to
Not
hear
at
and chat
all.
to you.
Not at all. It's great to hear the accent. And I'm really looking forward to this conversation because when I saw Mortgage Propeller, and we're going to talk about that in a moment, I thought I'm intrigued. So I've been watching you guys online and watching what you're doing. It's ripe for the picking right now, it's fair to say. Before we start talking a bit more about Mortgage Propeller and what makes it go, I'd like to hear a bit about how you started in business. What is your own little bit of a background story, and how did you get into all this entrepreneurial choice of life?
That's a good question. I've been asked that. I was just thinking as you were saying there, okay, what did I do? What was the first thing I did? I was always that person in school who was running a bus somewhere, or that person who was organising a competition with a cash prize, or maybe had a fair chance of winning, usually on a pool table or something. So yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that. I ran buses at our school. Got to the Hogan Cup final for the first time. We got out of Ulster and got to the Hogan Cup. And I remember that was a big operation. There's 3 buses going. The school decided not to do it. I did. There was a few of us at it. Those little things, at the end when the dust was settled and nobody had been lost, it was a really nice feeling when you're able to go and buy some of your own money. So that was probably the first one. There's a couple of little things along the way. Then at university, I played a little bit of poker. It's a story for maybe a little bit later. And then I always wanted to go into the stock market. I seen that Trading Places show when I was a kid. Eddie Murphy, you see at Christmas.
Yeah.
That set the path. I like numbers. I was good at maths, and that was my journey, I suppose, into all of this.
Yeah, you'd have a lot in common with my brothers then, who worked in the stock market in the UK. And was very similar to that, love numbers. But I was very similar to you in another way, Matt. I was always trying to figure out how could I make money for myself, because I didn't have anything handed to me. And I suppose we're similar in that respect, that you kind of value it a little bit more, I think, when you make it yourself.
Well, my mom had a corner shop, so she was always having to, I suppose, the hustle. She was always at that, and at the end of the day, she come home and count the money. I love counting the money. I counted that when I was a little kid, and your hands would be brown from the coins. That always sticks in my head. And then Saturday would be more, and that would be done at the kitchen table. And you know what? There's something always about that. There always is. Mom would be looking for the angle to try and save a few quid or make a few quid, or something was an offer, pushing that to the front.
Yeah.
I know there's stuff about that. Entrepreneurs see that if their family work for themselves, and that was a big part of the way it ended up for me.
She sounds like quite the lady, and I think we don't lick that stuff off the road, Matt. It's fair to say you have to have an interest and a hunger to do it, and I suppose to want to do it for yourself as well, but help people along the way. Yeah, that's a pretty good backstory, and I'm intrigued about the poker, but we'll talk about that another day. I won't do a poker face with you anyway. So tell me now about Mortgage Propeller, because where did the idea come from? What's the story behind it?
Did you not? You haven't read this? You haven't came across this?
I think I've read a little bit, yeah, but just for our listeners.
Oh yeah, okay. So I bought a house with a credit card in 2010 online. Okay, that's where it really starts. I was in the stock. I was trading for myself and things like that, and then there was a credit crunch, and Northern Ireland house prices absolutely cratered. I remember doing my research and seeing that it might be the fastest drop for a nation in house prices in history. And I was like, that's crazy. Like, how low can a house go? I remember very clearly thinking, like, how much does it cost to build a house? It must be worth something. I don't know anything about property. And I went online to Google. I found this website, mustbesold.com. House for sale, brand new in Tyrone, and it was on for £30,000. And I was like, does it cost £30,000 to build a house? I don't know. And it was a 1 day viewing, and I remember driving up, and it was winter, and it was the middle of the night. Well, it felt the middle of the night, and I viewed this house, and this house was perfect, but didn't have a toilet. It's like, what does it cost for a toilet? £1,000, £10,000? I don't know. Well, maybe if the house was, maybe it was £10,000 for a bathroom. This is how little I knew. Maybe it's £2,000 for floors. If I could buy this house for £42,000, wouldn't that be good? And then I check rent, and the rent would have worked out at a yield, as I know about now, 12, 13, 14%. It's like, I'm going to do it. How much can I lose? And the intention was, I didn't have any money. I was also hurting the credit crunch. I was like, I'll use the credit cards. I have a promotional offer. So I use 2 credit cards and I'll buy this online. And then I'll get a mortgage to pay off the credit card. And lo and behold, that was a big mistake, because you can't get a mortgage, 1, in a credit crunch, 2, when you've smashed your credit rating, and 3, when you're just not as good on paper as I would be. So it took me 2 years to get the mortgage, and it was truly horrific. Chasing brokers, moving from broker to broker, chasing banks, paperwork. It was awful. But I got there, so I learned an awful lot about the process at the time. And I did that a few more times, where I bought the house with credit cards for cash and then got a mortgage. But a couple of years ago, when me and Mary, who you know, went for our mortgage, and nothing had changed. Like, this cannot be the case. At this time, I was working for a fintech startup. I was seeing all the innovation that was going on. I had just went through the FCA sandbox. I seen open banking was coming. I was like, you just must be able to do some of this online. So I started looking into it, and that's when it started. I went to America and I searched online mortgages. There's a company called Rocket Mortgage, and I did what's known as a fact find. That's like paper application most people are familiar with, and it was a thing of beauty. It was a user experience that was perfect. It wasn't intimidating, and I just went, this is the future. This is how we will get our mortgages in the future. We'll probably have our phones. We'll put stuff in. They'll pull in details. We don't have to create bank statements and send them across. Brokers will be able to communicate and talk face to face. This is going back 2018, and it'll be much simpler and less intimidating. And that was me starting to look into it. And at the time, I was in our normal job. And after a couple of years, I got in front of the right people, and it was time to give it a go. I tried it in the Irish market, first of all. I got in touch with the guy, and we tried to get something going, but the Irish market is so broken that it's not possible. It's also a very small market. It's like, this is not going to work here. It's not, the brokers aren't king here, the banks are king, and nobody wants to fix this market. And I give it up. And then just before the pandemic, got talking to our co-founders. We're going to start something, and one thing led to another, and that's how we got off the ground.
And you know, Matt, I can totally identify with that, because when we were living in Sweden, which is 8 years ago now, we were there for 12 months. I had to run the business between here and there, and I had to engage with smart technology. And I was open to doing that if it meant I could continue working with my clients in different countries. And I saw how the banking system is over there and how everything was automated. And I couldn't fathom how this wasn't happening at home. And I started using the likes of Zoom, Microsoft Teams, and I've been using them ever since, which allowed us to hit the ground running with COVID. But getting back to the bank side of it, when we went to, I was just talking to you beforehand that we're at the end of a house build, praise be for small blessings. My God, it was a nightmare. We were only looking, thankfully, we didn't need a massive mortgage. We only needed a small mortgage. We were able to pay for the rest of it ourselves. But most people aren't in that privileged space, I suppose. But my God, it was like pulling teeth. And the system is definitely broken. There's no two ways about it. I couldn't understand why we couldn't do a lot of this online, why it wasn't a lot smarter than what it was. And then when I saw, it was around the same time that I saw Mortgage Propeller, and I thought, this is good. This stuff is smart. This solves a problem, because it's a really stressful time for anybody when they're trying to get all their ducks in a row and make sure they can pay for everything.
Yeah, and see, what I couldn't find, there's a whole journey of Mortgage Propeller, but the reason why it is the way it is in the Irish market is compliance. That's really what underpins everything. And so why would they try and be innovative when they know they're compliant using this paper-based system and da-da-da-da-da? And here's the thing, there's no other choice in the Irish market. You're stuck having to go to Bank of Ireland online, or Bank of Ireland. I mean, they've done their own direct lenders, but for a mortgage broker who helps it, makes it easier because they've access to all the people and see if all the run around. Why would they make it easier for the brokers? There's nothing else he can do. He has to go to those banks, so he will do it their way, and it will not get fixed. It's not going to get fixed unless somebody from the outside comes in and challenges them. And that's why our rates are in the Republic of Ireland are terrible. And when you compare to the rest of Europe, there's no competition, and nobody wants to fix it. You take that difference to the UK market. Instead of 7 lenders, or maybe even 5 lenders in the Republic of Ireland, you're talking about upwards of 600 lenders. Now, okay, there's 9 guys dominating, but you need a particular type of mortgage for you don't go to the main guy, you go to that one. You need a lender for that, you go to that, you go for that, you go for that, and you go to the broker because they have access to all of these mortgages, all of these lenders, 90 plus lenders. And then you find out there's a different problem in the UK because how do they get access to these 90 lenders? What sort of technology is used? Who's providing their compliance? And lo and behold, it's the same sort of problem originating in a different manner. And suddenly you've realized, you know what? It's not the broker who's the problem. The broker is king. He's fantastic. He's loved by his clients. It's all the crap they make them do behind the scenes with regards to compliance. And when we were coming up with this, my idea said was, if this was online, you would know when the first engagement came with a borrower to a broker, and you would know what sort of information they provided. And that would take away a lot of the fear because, you know, when they're filling out their compliance systems, you know, they write a note, Mags Boland met me on the 28th of October at 3 o'clock, her background, all these things, whereas this should be all automated. I gave her this document for GDPR and she signed it. Here's it is attached. That should be automated. And that's how we started. And when I was talking to my co-founder who has a mortgage business, I was like, why do you do it like this? And he would just tell me, Matt, that's just the way it is. And then when we were talking about another problem, which is lead generation, and you know, when you're on the high street, you've got word of mouth and a bit of traffic. When you're online, you've got the entire UK market. And I was like, well, what happens? Do you know that you could create, you could target someone in the morning who only has time going to work when they do their searches, and then if you had that, you had a way to convert them so they could begin their application, they could do it in their phone. And he was just, I remember he said, like, Matt, that is the moon to us. This does what stuff you're talking about is, it's like, you know, rocket science. This is not happening anytime soon. I think this is standard in any other industry other than the mortgage, and that sort of led to the conversation starting. And that was back in 2019 or something like that, you know.
Yeah, but Matt, that's only 2 years ago, you know. And
I know, yeah.
You know, when you look at it like that, it is very frustrating. So, like, anyone that knows me knows I love, like, I love the people piece, but I also love the piece of technology where we engage it to solve problems. And I like people who think outside the box. I champion that stuff. And I think it's so important that we think like that because, you know, that's the only way business can go forward and the world goes forward is if we kind of do things a little bit differently, because if we don't, things stay the same. And unfortunately, in the Irish market, I don't think it's going to change anytime soon when it comes to the mortgage end of things. But let's talk a little bit more about how the Mortgage Propeller works for users and who benefits from it. How does it actually work, Matt?
So, see, you know, you were talking about doing something different. Where it is now is not what we thought was going to be the case at the start. So at the start, you know, this all started with me seeing Mary get upset, right? So Mary's getting upset, and I was like, there has to be a better way. It's the same way it was 10 years ago. The self-driving cars, you're telling me we still have to do this. So that was the start. So I thought it was for the borrower, right? So that's how I started. But then as I started looking into the research and digging around and speaking and doing all the things you should do before you spend any money, I was like, why are you writing that? You know, there's that application, right? What we did is I went to a broker and I was like, okay, tell me everything that happens from the moment I walk into your office. I did this a lot of times. And they went, well, you're not going to walk into our office just like that. I was like, why? Well, somebody is going to call you. I was like, well, how did I call you? Somebody's probably give you my number or possibly online. You've just phoned. Okay, so what happens then? We'll talk for 15 minutes and I'll screen you. Like, why do you screen me? It's like, well, because if you got a mortgage, I don't want you wasting my time and I'll not be able to help you because, you know, you can spend a lot of time somebody can't get a mortgage. So this is the prospecting. I was like, I'm pretty sure that could be done online. Okay, then what happens? I'll invite you for a meeting and I'll send you a big email and I'll send you attachments and ask you to bring a lot of things, your supporting documents, in for the meeting. I was like, okay, why do you do that? Well, the things that I want you to do, I can't give you advice until you sign this illustration. I was like, okay, that could be done with an email and a checkbox and a document. It's like, okay, immediately you're going, that's 2 hours saved, and you can do this 24/7 without having the broker intervention. So what I thought initially was for the borrower who's looking for his home. Nobody wants a mortgage, they want a home. What I realized is the reason that there's challenges for the borrower, the uncomfortableness of chasing the broker not getting back to you, is because the broker has all this admin and compliance to do behind the scenes. And so when they're really good at giving advice, and all you want them to do is spend more time giving advice and do what they're good, less time doing this admin crap. So that's who it benefits. It benefits the borrower because it makes the broker's life easier and reduce their costs. And then there's your value proposition. The broker's costs have went down. That makes you a more attractive prospect to what they have elsewhere. And if they've got lower cost, they'll be more profitable. If they've got the whole UK market because you're online, they can scale, and there is the reason why 90% of mortgage firms have 5 advisors or less. They can't scale, so they're little tiny places everywhere because the admin costs and their overheads and their lack of capacity to give more advice is restricted. So that's what we're freeing up, which that's not what we thought, but that's what we're at now, and now it's pretty clean what we're able to do.
Yeah, and it's something, yeah, absolutely 100%, because we work with a lot of businesses to help them scale. And we've clients all over the world, Matt. But when you were talking there about an office having 5 brokers, when really and truly there isn't the need or the requirement for 5 brokers, but the admin has to be picked up somewhere, and the paper is just getting higher and higher. We've worked with an awful lot of businesses to help them bring smart systems and review their own systems into play. To make things smarter. So it makes life easier for your end user, which in the end is your borrower, and it makes life easier for the broker too. So they've less admin, correct?
Exactly.
Yeah. I love
And so,
that.
it's very hard. Like most firms, the innovation comes from someone from the outside looking at it. So a broker, if you think about it, they're in there. They started off and they're organically growing from one, and they get too many referrals, so they hire another junior broker and they train them up, and they don't have time to take a step back, give up all their earning power because they're family and kids and stuff, and try and build out something innovative or something technology. Whereas the only reason that I was willing to give it a go is that I was in the startup. I had seen the lead generation aspects from working in a big multinational online, and I also knew about venture funding, startups, angel, all this sort of stuff. I was like, I think this could be done. I don't think it's too hard. And then the only other person to convince after that was the wife, and then look, yeah, there's shit to get off the pot, and it was time to give it a go. And it just so happens this was 4 months before the pandemic, so that was another experience anyway, But at least we were right. We knew it was going to go online, and it did.
And how has it been? How has it been received?
In what aspect? Like how's the product been, or how was my?
I suppose what's the engagement like, and can you see the progress it's making yourself?
Oh yeah, you can now. For a while there, you're thinking, nothing's happening, but you probably were making progress. I suppose it might be worth describing what happened when I quit the job to give it a go, because this will tell you how it was received. So we're going to do this. I had asked people, I thought I had a job lined up because the Irish venture hadn't worked out, and I thought, okay, I'll do this. We'll do lead generation, and we'll do this. There's nothing major. The pandemic comes, and now you're screwed. Like I'm saying, we're proper screwed because I'm not very employable. Sure, I can barely get a mortgage because I'm not very friendly on paper, and I thought I am in real trouble here. And so you're sort of forced when you're in that level of difficulty to do something about it, And so what happened was, before the pandemic, and when all through, people that asked, like, no, that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. That's never going to happen. By the summer of 2020, when we started making progress, the pandemic kicked in March, and I was like, okay, well, no choice to try and make something happen here. Everybody was on Teams, everybody was on Zoom, and suddenly they are working from home. Everybody, and then the broker even rose to the top, more importantly, because people were panicked and they contacted the broker. I need to get the right insurance. I need the right life insurance. I need a remortgage. We've lost the job. I'm on furlough. And he can think about, what is he doing? He's stuck online. So how is he going to do his compliance now? And it was a mess. And then that's when Paul there, the guy I work with, the co-founder, he went, you know what, it's time we talk to some people in the industry because it's clear where this is going to go. This will not go back after that because the brokers learned they were more efficient. So that's when we started pitching for investment. And we went to the industry first before we went to angels. I'd say about 80%. All I had was some drawings. Like when I think about the pitches that I had to do from the bedroom with the kids going crazy.
That's real life stuff, Matt. That's
yeah,
real life.
I'm pitching for investment, you know. And how far are you along? I was like, I didn't turn over a page and go, I've got these colored drawings. I had wireframes and stuff, and we had a team, and I had a deck and all this stuff. But 70 or 80% was like, yeah, I'll do it, no brainer. And you're like, right, thanks for this vote of confidence. And then it was a matter of building it. Nothing really happened for a little while, and then we launched the pilot in January. And you were asking for uptake, so this is what happened. We launched the pilot. Was look, you just when you're, you know, we want to test to see this is right, if it'll be used, will people register online, can we generate leads? And we started with 5 advisors from 3 firms, and my hope was maybe we would have 100 people and you register in the platform and consider trying to get their mortgage started through us. But after about a week or two, with, you know, us doing our digital marketing and things like that, brokers just started to come to us. And so by the end, we had 17 firms across lots of mortgage networks, which is a term for the industry in the UK and how it's done there. We had 30 or 40 people, advisors, 17 firms. And I think there was maybe 60 million, well, probably crossed 60 million now in applications going through the platform to a broker. You know, so people online wanted to get their mortgage to the total of about 60 million. So I think that's 400 people now. Not all of them are ready for a mortgage. It's funny, when you move online, the people that maybe weren't ready and were excited to get a home, were sick of living at home when we're all cooped up together, started looking for mortgage. Now they have the intent for a mortgage, but it might take them a little while. But the journey started online without having to go to somebody face to face, waste people's time. They can be contacted with automated updates, readiness checklists, and all this sort of stuff. So it was very good. So that happened over the space of 6 months. So now it's very real, because while we're still not making a lot of noise and there's not a lot of PR, starting to get contacted regularly now. People are chatting within the industry. People are coming out of the woodwork. You can see now it's very unlike. We're just starting to leave that startup phase when everything is crazy. Hopefully by January, that'll be much calm. We got FCA authorized now. This is getting real. You got to be compliant, taking it very serious, and that craziness with everybody doing 80-hour weeks, that's starting to get under control. So it's been a slow journey, but just that turn has happened in the last 5 months or so.
But it's worth it. I feel like we have another client actually very like you, Matt, but a completely different sector to you, where they've been developing a sizing solution for online shopping. And it's amazing, when COVID hit, I knew when I heard COVID was coming and people were shopping online, there was going to be more activity. And now, I was just speaking to them the other day. We have Nike, we have big brands that are looking for them yesterday. And this is coming from somebody in a corner of Ireland who just decided this is too frustrating, and decided we were looking at the wireframe with them when they were starting up, and it's been a long haul. And they've gotten into the investment route now, which is fantastic, and secured that. And they're going to be on with us in a couple of weeks. But it's great to see that kind of stuff. And that's very, very similar to your kind of start as well with Mortgage Propeller. And to see that the numbers are building now, that's really, really good, because you don't want you want quality over quantity, I guess, as well. You want
That's
to be reaching masses, but
that's the next challenge. It's very much the next challenge. The validation of the pilot was driving numbers and leads to prove it. No point now dropping 100 people who's not ready for a mortgage into a broker's lap. That'll frustrate too many people, damage your brand. So now it's a little bit more, okay, let's help the right people at the right time. When is that? There's a whole different world behind that.
And I suppose there lies all the challenges of running your own business and we're constantly thinking, I think, and we're constantly trying to, work around problems to make it better and to make it sustainable and scalable in the long run. Can I ask you something a little bit separate but relative to the property market? Brexit. we all love the subject, but however, how has that affected the property market in the UK?
That's all done and dusted. That's in the rear view mirror. We would have been just after that. So the little downturn, when I'm doing my research, I see, I'm reading the 2018, the 2017, the 2016 paper. Doesn't seem hasn't affected it in any way, shape, or form. It's affecting other things like the supply chain, which probably is which is increasing prices. But like, I don't know if it would be that much notable compared to how crazy everything went during lockdown and how many people searched for homes and how crazy it went. We could see this the moving average of the size of the mortgage that our target audience went. And when we started, it was averaging 155K of a mortgage. By the end, you could literally see day after day the moving average creeping up, and it was by the end of that pilot, it was 178. Okay, now we didn't change our target audience, but they wanted more to chase the home that they wanted. Now that would have been lockdown, Brexit, and things like that. In Northern Ireland, what has it done? House prices maybe. I think it's other things going, but Belfast is booming here. I'm in a shared office here. We work in an office called Ormo Bath. And it is, you heard the noise from the other room. We were popping up a little bit during the pandemic and it was quiet. Now they've got a waiting list to get in. It's a startup hub. There's lots of supports. I heard there was 4 tech jobs for every one, 4 tech applicants for, sorry, 4 jobs for every 1 tech applicant. And the one interesting thing that maybe might interest some of your listeners is that I was speaking to a VC fund that was raising, and an American investor, I don't know where they get their partners from for the funds, passed on them a couple of years ago and came back now and said that Northern Ireland is squarely in their emerging markets. Because what's going to happen with Brexit? What's going to happen with Europe? What happens if Northern Ireland ends up being like, I don't know, Andorra or San Marino or something? It's not, maybe not, but it's also a lower cost, perfect infrastructure connected to the UK market. I think you'll see a lot more investment coming in here in all sorts of forms, which will ultimately drive the prices. Now, nobody can see, but what happens if that American outfit's right and they've got a foothold? They'll be laughing.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. We have a couple of clients in the north, and I was speaking to a client of mine down here south who is from the north, and we were saying that as well. Both of us were saying that there is, it's sitting very much prime at the moment for the picking. It's a good location. It's got good infrastructure, good accessibility. What's not to like about it if you wanted to increase your investment into that market as well. It's a viable option, and it's a little bit of a tunnel through to the UK as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
If I'm to be honest,
well, I
which is all good for business. In the most
because I'm sorry, I couldn't cross there. I was pitching an investor there who agreed to invest, and he was looking at our salaries, and he's in London, and he was like, that's a good salary in Northern Ireland. Like that's what we project, because he was saying my projections were nonsense, and like it's just a lower cost base here, And when you can see all the Republic of Ireland registrations in the cars here and the accents, everybody's coming up here, and that's maybe because they locked it all down there. But the price of stuff, it's very favorable for a business,
Yeah, and everything down here, price-wise, I was just driving there in the Jeep earlier on, and Matt, are you back with me?
I am indeed. I'll let you do. Can you see me? Can you hear me? I'll let you take care of it. My internet's perfect. I think it's you that's dropping.
Tell me a little bit about, I suppose, about yourself. What's the one thing we don't know about you?
Lots of things you don't know about me, but I suppose the poker playing is an interesting one. I became a trader, but before I got to be a chance to be a trader, I played poker professionally. Nobody knows about that there. I played poker professionally. In the Taj Mahal Casino in the summer 2000 or something like that there, 2001, playing 5-10 no limit hold'em. So yeah, and then when I came down to Dublin, I can still play. I still play sometimes. Kids knock that in the head, but yeah, I'm pretty good. I've played with all those people you see on TV all the time, and I could always hold my own, But I suppose that builds into
good man. That doesn't surprise me in the slightest. That's pretty wicked. Well done. And it's no surprise then that taking a risk is not an issue. In business, you have to be able to. I always say to my husband, I'll take a calculated risk. I won't take an uncalculated one. And he says, "Oh no, you're playing safe." But no, you gotta. There's a bit of risk in that too. But I definitely think you have to have a bit of skin in the game.
Yeah, and investors want to see that too. They ask, "Well, what have you
Absolutely.
done?" And I said, "Well, I quit my job. I didn't get to have a paycheck for 9 months. I am all in this," and that gives them comfort to know that.
Mm.
It also helps when they hear you've got little kids and stuff like that. And you're like, this man must succeed. He will go to the end of the earth to succeed. And if you took money off friends, they like to hear that as well because there's other people that they have to answer to rather than them when they write their check. So yeah, very much so. It's a risk, but skin in the game is important.
Did you find that when you left that secure job, that people were kind of looking at you going, "Is he nuts?"
Sure, everybody thinks I'm nuts. Do you know what I mean? That credit card stuff, I thought they were nuts for not doing it. You know, there's a house for sale for 30 grand. Just find the money. Why would you not do it? And they were like, you're mad. It's going on. Like, I don't know. I definitely am not looking at things the same way as everybody else.
Yeah. I think that reminds me of when I started the business, Matt, and I left a really well-paid job, a stressful job, but a really well-paid one, to set up on my own. And I think people thought I was cuckoo, but I think a lot of people thought I was cuckoo anyway. So, and even, my own family didn't understand what it was I do. I think some days they don't still understand that. But,
Uh-huh.
I knew myself that I had to do this, because it's if it's in you, it's in you.
Yeah.
And you'll never know unless you try. What's the worst that can happen? You fail? Well, you learn the lesson then, and I'm a big believer in that. I think I think it's great. That's why I love to see people doing stuff for themselves, and paddling their own canoes, my dad used to say, because I think, you got to make your own luck sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. Absolutely. And it's not, some things just won't come to you. If you just start, you find a way. Like the harder you work, the luckier you get, is somebody's famous quote. And that's it. Like
Yeah.
looking back at the start when the things that I was thinking, some of the things that have happened there, like, oh my God, if I had known how to do that. But you know what? When you're only just working hard a little bit, things just start to fall into place. They really do. Now here, we can't get too excited. We have a long, long way to go. We are not out of the woods by any means. But Jesus, going back 12 months, some difference. Sitting in a dole queue and everybody wearing masks and you have no money and you're going, would you ever bet yourself to get to this point? But you just keep going, you get there.
And can I ask you, Matt, like, what do you see as the big challenge right now for Mortgage Propeller? What is your biggest challenge right now?
The biggest challenge is going to be recruiting the right people by 100%. It's because right now it's all about growth. It's all about recruiting advisors, good advisors, and motivating and looking after them and helping along, recruiting key compliance people. Then the other side, we're almost like an e-commerce business, and it's generating traffic. Now, I have a decent understanding of that, and there's a lot of people who can do that, but making sure you deliver on that. It's going to be execution from here on in. And otherwise, it's just going to be a stumble along lifestyle business, and that's not worth thinking.
No, okay. I missed all that, Matt,
Oh,
because
shit.
I lost you for a few minutes.
Do you want me to say it
So
again?
that's okay. Yeah, please. Just to tell us, just in case we missed it on the recording, like, what is your biggest challenge right now?
It's going to be the execution going forward, the recruiting of the right people, recruiting of brokers, recruiting of the key compliance stuff. People who don't know, I have an idea how things is, but you need somebody who's lived it and got 15 years experience who will take it to the next stage. That's going to be one challenge, and the other one is lead generation, traffic. We're almost like an e-commerce site at this point. You need to nail that. Now I know there's lots of people do it, but there's a lot of people challenging for someone's attention online, and if you're going to go to the scale that we want to go to, so let's say we hire 100 brokers over the next 5 years. There's going to have to be an awful lot of traffic to the site and a lot of brand awareness that's going to be needed to match that. Otherwise, you get this ferociously competitive. It's a huge market. Just be swallowed up by somebody, and you'll end up being an also ran.
And what do you feel like, I suppose, what do you feel will help you to push that forward?
Um, Being innovative. You know, everybody is looking at things kind of differently than us. I don't want to say too much here because maybe some people are checking us out at the moment. I know they are, but just being innovative how you go about it. How does everybody recruit a key advisor? They typically go through a recruitment agency. Okay, well, let's not do that. Well, how do we get in to speak to those guys, and try and, do something smarter, faster? What's wrong? Doesn't work? Try something else,
Yeah, absolutely. Big believer in that too. And there's a saying there's more than one way to skin a cat. And you've just got to maybe find. Sometimes you have to have a plan A, plan B, plan C until you find something that actually works. And that can be quite. We've had to do it in our own business. But when you hit that sweet spot where you see the numbers coming in and you're hitting the right people, that makes life a whole lot easier. Now I know you're rushing off to get a bus or a train, so I'm going to thank you, but I just want to let everybody know, first of all, apologies for the technical difficulties. I don't know what was going on there. There was a rabbit at the controls somewhere. So if you want to check out Mortgage Propeller, you can do so on mortgagepropeller.com. And you can also email Matt at mortgagepropeller.com. Do share this because it's an innovative solution for borrowers and for brokers. It is going to save time for both parties. When you do that, you save money. So, Matt, I'm going to thank you and let you go. And yours in business. Take it easy.
Thanks, Max. See you.
Take
Have a
care.
great day. Bye-bye.
You too.